그 이제 오늘 마지막 날인데요. 뭐 우리 첫날부터 해서 이제 쭉 해 온 걸 보면 첫날은 이제 그 벤틱이 이제 어떤 건지 좀 특징이나 뭐 그런 것도 좀 말씀을 드렸고요. 그래서 뭐 벤틱이라고 하는 게 인제 뭐 EDA 기반의 그 이벤트 드리븐 아키텍처를 지원하는 이제 개발 환경이고, 인제 기존의 인제 데이터베이스 기반의 전통적인 개발 방법론도 도 인제 만들 수가 있지만, 이제 이벤트 기반으로 아키텍처를 만들어서 할 때 좀 되게 유연하고, 그다음에 그 로코드라고 해서 전체 내용을 다 이제 로직을 다 코딩하는 게 아니라 이미 정해져 있는 인제 그 패턴들을 가져다가 인제 드래그 앤 드롭 방식으로 쉽게 인제 만들 수가 있고, 이제 그런 인제 특징들을 좀 첫날은 좀 말씀을 드렸고, 이제 둘째 날은 인제 이 벤틱 안에서 제공하는 다양한 인제 사용에 대한 리소스들에 대해서 좀 설명을 드렸죠. 그래서 뭐 아키텍처도 좀 설명을 드리고, 그다음에 이제 벤틱에서 써야 되는 용어들 관련된 이제 같은 타입이나 또는 뭐 토픽이나 또는 뭐 소스나 이런 여러 가지 환경들, 그리고 인제 개발을 실제 해야 되는 이제 아이디어와 관련해서 좀 말씀드렸고, 그리고 인제 어제랑 뭐 그제는 이제 실제 안에서 인제 개발할 때 인제 사용하는 여러 가지 화면들이 있었잖아요. 그래서 그 시스템 모델러부터 해 가지고서 앱 빌더라든지 또는 뭐 클라이언트 빌더라든지 뭐 이런 기타 것들 좀 말씀드렸고, 이제 어제까지 해서 인제 기본적인 인제 그 벤틱 안에서 사용할 수 있는 개발 도구나 또 이제 개발하는 법을 배웠다라고 하면, 오늘은 인제 개발 과정에서 우리가 해야 될 것 중에 한 가지가 인제 사실 트러블 슈팅이잖아요. 그래서 디버깅이나 그런 것 관련해서 오늘은 또 아드리아노가 설명을 해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 아드리아노?
Thank you. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Oops. Okay. So I'm quickly just going to do a review on the collaboration that we had yesterday. So just to remember, collaboration has a big difference from let's say traditional applications, because it's not only it has the configuration, but it also has the runtime parameters. That's a key component that will be defined exactly at the time of the application this collaboration is running, and that will define what I call the context of the collaboration. So each collaboration has a different context, but for that reason, each collaboration has different properties or different values in the back. So this makes collaboration to be quite unique in Vantiq. This is one of the examples that we have. For example, let me see if I can zoom in. Zoom. Anyway, I don't remember how to zoom. So in here you can see some of the properties available for you to use during one collaboration, depending on what is the value and what the activity and in which point of the collaboration you are on. So you might have different options here available for you. So we discussed yesterday some of the collaborations. I'm just gonna discuss a little bit further into them. So the initiate collaboration is the one where you start everything. You have when you start on a collaboration from the application builder, it automatically populates this field here for you, the initial trigger. You have the location tracking where you can define a user, and then Vantiq will locate this user for you. Actually, Vantiq will talk to the mobile Vantiq app and ask the mobile app to send back to the server the GPS coordinates. These location tracking activity can also produce, depending if you specify, for example, a destination and a waypoint, some waypoints, it can create for you some specific events like arrival, waypoint departure, so that you don't have to query the backend for the location and then do a comparison. Vantiq will do that automatically for you, and whenever there's Vantiq detects that a user, for example, has arrived into a destination radius of that a radius from of that destination. Vantiq will emit a arrival event for you. We have a conversation activity that allows us to talk with the users using the chat application, either on the dashboard or on the mobile app. And you'll be able to include users, send messages, and connect that message to the chatbot framework from Microsoft. Notifications allows you to build a mobile app page, send that to specific users, and in result you have an array of all the users that has replied back on that notification. Assignment, you assigned an object or a value to a variable, so you may use it in any part of the collaboration instead of using such a huge object like collaboration.results.findTech recommendations 0 username. You can assign that to a variable called tech, so it's much easier for you to reference later on. Escalate, so you have a timing, so before it runs out, you may have that escalation in a waiting, cancel, or expired period. Recommend, you will have Vantiq look into using an algorithm to look into its tables or types and define which one is the closest match to what you're looking for. So we have two types of built-in collaborations. Is a default recommendation, sorry, two built-in algorithms for recommendations. It's a default recommendation and the nearby recommendation. The nearby, as the name says, will look for the closest instance of the candidate type that matches what you're looking for based on the, let's say, destination of what you're looking for. And the default recommendation is looking for a best match based on measurements. So let's say you have a product, let's say a bottle of water. So in your objective, your candidate type is actually boxes. So Vantiq will look for which is the box that closest match your bottle, so you don't have such a huge box nor a tiny box that won't fit. Execute, it will call automatically a procedure that you have defined. Natural language processing, so using Lewis from Microsoft or some other natural language interpreter, you can send messages or you can send some text and have the system like Lewis interpret that message and get back to you with the intents. So you can have, for example, you can send a whole message to Lewis saying, I want to buy a ticket from Rio to Seoul. So Lewis interpret that the user has an intention of buying from the locations Rio de Janeiro to the locations Seoul. You can even put some other components. You could put like date and time, and Lewis service will return all of that to you in the collaboration. So you can build really cool, really advanced applications with Vantiq using that. And just a reminder of the activities and situations. Last one, all those things that we talked, there are activities. Whenever you have some custom procedures that you don't need you don't need a continuation, you don't need Vantiq to generate an event for you or store that back in the database in the context, you can call a service that will also call a procedure, but different from the execute. It will not continue processing, nor it will store the information on the context. It will just execute and that's it. So that was the wrap up or review of collaboration. This is really huge component of Vantiq, really important. and really, I understand, complicated a little bit. And let's now talk about the last day. So debugging. So I will use the slides to guide me, and then I'll go back to the Vantiq interface so that I can show some of the components that I'm going to show here. You've already seen me using several times during this week. So one of them is the view task events available at the app builder. So let me show you. I'll grab an application. So this application has this collaboration running. If I want to see what are the tasks that are running in any one of these components, how are the events that are flowing, I can click here, view task events, and I'll be able to see what's going on. So these are the temperature events. I can click here, view task events. I'll also be able to see it there. So this is really useful. I will use it really all the time, the view task events. One other, let me follow the slides. So this one is also really useful. So the logging, the procedure logging and procedure autopsy. So here, let me give you an example. Let me grab the get directions. So I don't do a lot of logging, but if I wanted, for example, log.info, I could log. Let me put this below. I could log, for example, I never remember the correct format. Yeah, just okay. So I could log the stringify and log the query parameters, for example, query params. So save, execute. Okay. So if I go to the log, test, logs, run query. These are warnings. If I want to record this, it's already info. I think I just on the okay. I have to select the log level info query. Oh, I think I put the yeah. So yeah, I was using the wrong format, the wrong order. So here's the info that I stored, the query parameters. If I wanted to put something else, I could put just, for example, no, let me leave it there. I could put some more like here's my log. Save, execute, okay, log, refresh. I think it's this one, right? Yeah, here's my log. So you can see here. You can enable different types of logging if you want to debug, if you want to see what's really going on in the procedure. You can enable, for example, trace or debug or just info warning errors. You can enable which one you want. And there's also the possibility to use the tracing here. So as I said in the beginning of the suite, we don't have uh, the possibility to do like code breaks in the execution of the code, because if we were to do that, the execution would not be in real time. So what we have, so still the info here. So what we have, let me put in refresh. That's still just info. Is the capability to use what we call autopsies. So in test, there's an autopsy, and it allows us to see the execution of that procedure or a rule, and you can see the variables that were generated and what happened. So here you can step by step in each one of the lines, so you can see what happened and even the output of the log generated. So here, so when I got directions, I can see my directions here. In my this code is pretty straightforward. So the only component that could actually become an error is actually the bar here. But if you put a breakpoint in some of the code here, you can just then jump from the beginning to the code break that you put. But this has already happened. This is not happening as you're navigating, different from like Visual Studio or Eclipse, where you can navigate or run through your code, because it's not, this one is not a synchronous, it's asynchronous processing. Um, let's get back here. Let me see the bug configuration. I'll show you in a bit. So let's see the bug configuration and the subscription. So this component that I just created, the tracing for my procedure, I created it straight from my procedure, or I could have created from my from the bug configurations. So here you can see there are three of them. So the where I'm storing the log, I'm storing the trace from my log, and the tracing of the application of the procedure. Sorry. If I want, I can delete all of them. If I want, I can create a new one from here. I can say, I want to do a tracing or profiling. Let's say profiling of my, I can select a rule, a procedure, my application. I want to say I want to get the application, my application as app name, or my Equipo app. So this configuration, there's also an expiration date, and this is very important for you guys to know, because otherwise, if we didn't have this expiration date, these let's say this tracing would just keep on running, and filling up the database with a lot of the information that's actually happening, and it would just make the processes run a little bit slower, because not only we are running it, but we are also storing what's happening to each one of the steps. So this takes a little bit longer. So that's why we have an expiration date for the logs, and then we can save, so that our application will now start being profiled, or we can do it like the tracing in some of the components here as well. So when you come back to the debug configuration, you'll see the profiling the name is profiling, but you see it's now doing a tracing. I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it. Yes, stop. Let me see if it generated something. My autopsies from query. Yeah, so as you can see, as I selected my Equipe app, it generated an autopsy for all the components of my application. So save latest data, uh, store the transform here, so much more here. We could see each one of them running from inside my tracing, my transformation there, what it was doing. So this is really useful for us when we want to see what's going on, what's taking, what is my application doing, what's taking in, what's processing and pushing out. Another way that we could do that's very similar to the view task events is create a subscription. So in the case of sources or topics or even types, and sometimes the specific events, we can create subscriptions to look at what's going on. So let me create a new one. I'm gonna call it a new one. I'm gonna listen for updates on a type. I'm gonna call it update in my type. I can say I want to see the age. Oh, not my type, sorry, equipo. Otherwise, there's nothing happening there. So I want to see equipo ID, just equipo ID, RPMS, and temperature. So when we see the subscription, it will tell us exactly what happened in the whole object or just what we wanted to see. Another possibility, let me just disable this, is when we are looking at topics, just like this one. So here, it's not actually a subscription because subscription, let me just show here. Subscription, you're actively listening to a topic. So topic sub. So publish, Adrig topic. Now let's say stream/10. It's easier. I don't have to publish anything. Every 9 seconds, something gets published. And just to call your attention to something, this is being published every 9 seconds. So as you can see, there's a 9-second difference between each sequence of these 5 events. But pay attention. This is not something that we are storing anywhere. This already happened. So this happened and it's gone. We're just seeing something in the past. We are not storing this anywhere. This is just in memory. So if I close my subscription and open it again, I think it's this one, right? Yeah. As you can see, there's nothing there. If I clear the data, there's nothing there. It just gets lost. It's just currently showing you something that happened and that's it. It's not storing this data. Okay. And now that we're talking about data, let's take a look at find records and errors. So Vantiq allows us to use the show find records to search for specific records, and you can see the system types and system properties. Sometimes in advanced, let's say advanced development, you may want to search for, you might want to check which are the active collaborations. So if you want to do that, you can come here in system collaborations. You want to see, for example, the status of those that are, I'm gonna leave it as open as any, but you might want to see just those that are open. So here, or you can see all the information and even the situations. This is something like a little bit more advanced that are here, and the status, which one are active, which ones are closed. So you can take a look here and quickly see assign tag is one of my collaborations. So assign tag, and I have all the other my new collaborations. So some of them will happen more than once. Some of them will be active, some will be closed. So you can do a select, you can see the status, and you can even run a procedure to, for example, to close them. So you have find, you can run it on different, for example, equipo. So in my equipo, this one, you already seen this information. It's the traditional information you see when you click and show all items. But let's say that you want to do, you want to see the system properties because you want to see what is it storing at created by. So let's see, run query. Let me see here. So created by, where is, oh, here it is. Rs created by, that's probably my user. Oops, not here. Yeah, so that's my user there. You might want to see, I don't know, some other information. This is interesting, like Rs don't export. The type would be marked that not to export. which namespace does it belongs to, if anybody modified, ars public. So you can run this query. Let's remove the other properties. Let me just keep the keep ID. Run query. So I see the namespace, I see the keep ID, ars created by, there's nothing in ars public. These are more a little bit more advanced, but you can see it from here, from show, find records. And I'm telling you this because sometimes I see people, some developers creating a new column, like created at or created by. So depending on what you want, the created by, I agree, you might need to have a different column for that. But the created at, you could definitely use the properties, the property available at Vantiq from Vantiq. So it would be much more efficient to use it than to create another one to store it. And this one, there's no way any procedure will change it. It's an internal value. And if you create a column called created at, you could have a procedure creating. Again, depends on what you want to do. After this, in tests, we have the errors. So if you want to see all the errors that have happened, in my case here, I accidentally deleted the one before. Let me change my namespace to another one. Let me get to manufacture, yes. So there's some errors there. So this icon here will show me the unread errors. Once I've seen it, they will disappear from this screen, but they do not disappear from the errors. So if I come in test errors, run query, I'll see them here. Okay, so whenever there's an error that you have seen and you don't see anymore at the unseen errors screen, you can come to test errors and you can see it, just like the logs. Let me follow the presentation. Errors, view error. The error, I showed you this. Yes, it's almost like the autopsy. Let me see one. So in here, oh, that's something interesting and important to show. So sometimes what happens in Vantiq that you might see an error in one procedure, but the error is not actually in that procedure, is in a procedure below. So when that procedure, for example, called one procedure that then called another one, that then called another one, that then called another one, and finally had one that had the error, it will you have a stack of issues. So that's why we have the stack trace here. So instead of just seeing the last one error, you can see the one that really originated the issue before. So in this problem here, the name of the push source, which should be used to send the alert. Oh no, this is the name of the procedure. Sorry. So the error is exactly here. So push notification. That was a problem. You can see who was the user, the title of the push collaboration. So what happened exactly? So you see, oh, there was a problem with my Vantiq push notification. Or in here, found non-array value, for multi property parameter notifications sent payload users. So the problem is that it was looking for an array and it didn't find an array, found just the string. So you can see what happened. So this was for, let me keep on the view error. Autopsies I showed. Generated rules. So this is important again. Let me just come back here. I talked about this on Wednesday, I guess, but let me talk about it again. Oh, I'm already there. Let me just let me go to the other one. Okay, so here we have the Equipo app. I'm gonna disable it. Save. So when I save and I search for Equipo app, Vantiq only shows me, in this case, a deployment in my application. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing in system. If I enable this, when I save, Vantiq is generating for me all the code that's gonna be running in my system. So when I enable hidden, you can see it created 9 event streams. It created 2 procedures and 3 rules. So you can see each one of them if you want. Let me just select, add selected. So you can see each one of them if you want. The event streams is something that we cannot create manually. We can create rules, we can create procedures, but event streams is something that only Vantiq can create with using application builder or collaborations. So in this case here, I could see what Vantiq is doing and try to understand what's going on, so that I can um, better tune my application. I can see what is it's doing in the rules. So let's take a look at the not start collaboration, not save save to time. Yeah, let me show you something. So if I put uh, here the condition that temp, I think is event.temp, right? No, yeah, event.temp over, let's say, 500. Okay, and RPMS, it's also gonna be event RPMS over 10,000. I know it's gonna stop happening. I mean, it's gonna stop doing anything. So I could go on and take a look at what's going on. So I still have the same rules, same procedures, same event streams, but they have actually they're gone from here because I saved and then Vantic deletes them and recreates them. So another important thing. So if you see something that you think you can change, you could actually make some changes here and save it. But if you delete it or disable it and re-enable the application, or just do something that will make the application to that you need to save it again, Ventic will delete everything and recreate everything. So that component that we wrote, the when the temperature is over 200 or 500, I think it's 500. It's going to be over here. So that was the rule that it created. So when event occurs on topic slash stream slash tempic as event, where event dot value dot temp over 500. That's when it's gonna start kicking in our application. So this is just a way for you to see what's going on, what let's say made your application break, or how you could make it better. It's not something that you have to do. Like you don't need to look at these uh, background configurations of Vantic or what Vantic did in the background, but it's useful to know. It's okay. View generated rules, collaboration. So collaboration and clients. So collaborations. I know we did this yesterday. I'm gonna just come back. So in here in my collaboration, this is something that I always use. There's no one collaboration that I create that I don't use the debugging collaboration. So test advanced collaborations. Uh, you can come here and you can see what's your collaborations, that who are the which ones are running, which ones are closed, And the most important part, the values inside your collaboration. So this is the actually the important piece that you will use all the time. So even if you know what's happening. So let's say I know that I want let's say I want to use the notification from the above. I know that I want to use this notification dot responses, and I want to do 0. Many times, and I tell you, many times it happens that you just forget that actually you have to put, for example, user ID. And when you look at the information, or in this case, it was username, so you can see what exactly you need to do. Oh, it was notification responses. Okay, so let me fix this. So response is 0, username. So this way it will make sure that you know exactly what you're doing instead of guessing and going on doing mistake and then coming back and so on and so forth. Um, Clients. So I showed this yesterday. So whenever you're debugging a client, you could use the development tools available in Chrome or Edge. And whenever you're designing debugging on the mobile application, it gets a little bit harder because you don't have the console tools. So my suggestion for you is to create maybe an alert if the object is small, or in the client builder. Let me just get a small client. The client builder, depending on what you want to do, you can put, for example, an object. If you want to see the object, you can attach this to a client data object. So you can say, for example, client.data.obj. You assign the value that you want to see here, and then you will be able to see that in your in the mobile app. And even if you need to copy paste, you will be able to do that. Otherwise, the alert gets too big, and it's kind of hard to debug in the mobile app. Uh, I think that is, yeah. There's a new component here that I haven't talked, and I think it's good. It's best if you take a look at the online section. It's about the tests and test suites that you can create your own tests specifying the inbound, the if you want to test the whole application, if you just want to test, let's say, a procedure. So here you can see I want to test a procedure or a rule that I have created, or if I want to test the whole project, which one is the project I want to test, how to set it up, how to clean up, if there's a procedure to set up, a procedure to clean it up, or let me put just unit test. So what is the input, what is the expected output, and how frequent you want to run the procedure. So you can see exactly what's going on in a automated way. And how can you say it? It's not only frequent, but in a very, let's say, determined way, so that you always do the same thing the same way every time. So will be sure that anytime you do an upgrade, you will be sure that this is still running, this is still correct. There's more on the test inside the community portal, so you can run it and you can see it, and you can then run in your environment. Let's now, let me quit here, talk a little bit about integration. I've talked about this before, but now we're gonna spend a little bit more time just to understand. So integration with other systems means that you're sending or receiving data from Vantiq or to Vantiq from external components. And it can be anything. If you're building your own application, if you're building a mobile application, you could use Vantiq SDKs that are available for iOS, Android, or JavaScript, so that you make build your own web page integrating data or sending data, bringing data from Vantiq, or you can even push or pull data from existing external systems using the sources available in Vantiq. So this part here we have discussed a lot. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the architecture so that you understand that how you can do it in a better way. So every interface in Vantiq, and I remember I did this in the first or second day, allows you to have a REST API so that you can communicate with it. So the SDKs that we have are basically REST wrappers, or wrappers around REST API calls, so that you can communicate with topics, with types, run some procedures, and sometimes do deployments or other parts or other activities. But sometimes, depending on what you're doing, using the REST API may not be the best approach, because let me see. Now I'll talk about it later. But so every time if you're posting something into a topic, every time you're doing a REST call, and every time you're authenticating, opening a connection, posting the information, posting the event to a topic, and then closing that connection. So if you're doing that once a second, it's okay. If you're doing that once a minute, that's not going to be really a good performance, because sorry, not 1,000 minute, but 1,000 a second. You will be doing it 1,000 calls a second, 1,000 authentication, 1,000 opening 1,000 times the channel, pushing 1,000 times per second, so on and so forth. If you want to do such a massive integration, it's much better to use, in this case, for example, a WebSocket call, where you open the socket, you push all the 1,000, and you can even keep it open, or you may close it if necessary. So this will be a better approach depending on scenario. If you have another type of situation where you have, for example, a local database or local even REST interface that it doesn't communicate with the internet, you may have an enterprise connector doing the bridge between these internal or these local database data source with Vantiq. So what we call the enterprise extension source can run a code on your local network, consume that information, that data, and generate events back to Vantiq, using a WebSocket connection. So this is a lot, very performatic, and allows you to also configure the source in Vantiq to send back to this component a different configuration. We will talk about this in a few slides. The SDK integrations, as I said, they're basically wrappers around Vantiq, around the REST calls. We have it ready for JavaScript, Node.js, Java, Android, iOS, and the Java SDK is 100% Java, so the Java SDK can use to create some applications in client Java or in the server or even Android. That's what I said. Oh no, I forgot to say. So all SDKs are inherently asynchronous. So there's no synchronous calls to Vantiq using the SDK. So in a good way, you make sure you're not. I'm not going to say breaking Vantiq, but you're making sure that you are making use of the asynchronicity of Vantiq, so that Vantiq can still run processing thousands of events per second. Node.js, you can install it using npm. iOS, you can use Cocoa Pods to install it. Java SDK, you can download it from our site. There's one very interesting component. No, sorry, this is I thought it was the micro edition. That's The microservice interface is the one that I've seen me using in the first day. So anything that we have, you can call it from an API /v1/resources, the name of the resource, if it's a topic, if it's a type, if it's a custom type that you develop, and you can even go to the resource identifier, the underscore ID information. It uses always HTTPS when you're talking to the cloud, Vantiq cloud, and you can use a token to authenticate to it. I think I've showed you this. You can do a get, post, put, delete a patch. The results are delivered as JSONs. Let me just show it again because just to be sure that you guys saw that. So I have a topic here called, oops, no, I don't want to save it. So I have a topic called a Greek topic. Let me close this one. I want to grab a token, access tokens, demo. Okay, I copy this. And I want to post something to this topic. So I can call a postman. So my URL is internal.vantiq.com, internal.vantiq.com, API v1 resource topics. Instead of, it's a Greek topic, and my token is, I paste this token. In my body, I'm sending JSON. So this is the JSON I'm sending. So when I click send, I will receive here. If I'm on a type, let me see what's here. So in this case, I'm gonna do, instead of a post, I'm gonna do a get. Instead of topics, it's gonna be actually not a type, but custom. And now there's not just my type and the topic again. In this case here, it doesn't matter really what I'm doing because I'm doing a get. So I can send anything and I will get my object, for example, age 44, name Adriano, and the system informations that are available there. Again, the custom code that I created, custom properties, and the system properties that are also available there. I can do an insert. I can do if I do a put or a post, I can do an insert or an update. Let me see. Let me just make sure. Insert this post. Let me do one post for you guys here. Refresh. There's just these two. I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna do a post. I'm gonna do. Let me copy these three here. So ID. I'm gonna do anything. I'm gonna do. Oh, now that I notice that I misspelled Shangan's name. Sorry, my bad. I'm gonna put Shangmin, and I'm gonna put 55. Send. So oh, I think it's because it's missing. No, it was missing on there also. Yeah. So now it returned me the Shangmin, the age, and the information that it created. If I come to the interface, refresh, there it is. So you can use these the REST API to call Vantiq and even run procedures too. So if there's a procedure that you created in Vantiq, you could externally call it from an application, have it run in Vantiq and get the return information. So all instance of a type. As I said, you could execute a procedure, publish it to a topic. Okay, remote sources. We talk about this. Do a select to call it. You can pull it every X amount of time that you want. and the extension source. So extension source, what I was saying, you could have extension sources running on premises, and these extension sources initiate the communication with Vantiq. So instead of you having to ask a customer to open a port to connect directly to a database, when you have the extension source, this extension source will run on premises, connecting to the data and connecting to Vantiq. So this is a bidirectional connection. And if there's a firewall in the middle, let me put a firewall here. Even if there's a firewall here in the middle, you don't have to worry about it because Vantiq looks terrible, my firewall, but anyway, as the extension source is initiating the communication to Vantiq, it's from inside the network to outside the network. Usually anything in port 80 or port 443 is, again, usually it's allowed because it's you're communicating in a secure port from inbound to outbound. So usually it's permitted. So it's very firewall friendly. So it's very firewall friendly and allows you to send data back to Vantiq once the communication has been established. Currently, we have actually we have more than these 5. So let me show you. It's whenever you wanna see or use it, it's in GitHub/Vantiq. So we have the extension sources. So we have CSV source, easy modbus, JDBC, JMS that communicates with MSMQ, MEQ series, and other queuing services, object recognition, OPC UA, UDP. This test connector, I have no idea. Yes, it just published this, so kind of new. And you can use it. You yourself can create your own mechanisms or extension sources. So this is really really useful. You can copy one of them and just start working, or you can use the SDK to start building your own extension source. There's a couple of sessions on extension source to be really much more details in the community portal. So I'm not gonna be doing like very long discussion here, but the idea is that you have a connection or reconnection whenever it detects that it has been disconnected from Vantiq. You have the configuration, you have the publish when you publish something back to Vantiq. You have query operation whenever Vantiq queries something back from the server to the extension source, and you have the notification when you push an event back to Vantiq. So this is a diagram on how it works. It's also available in the Vantiq GitHub. Extension source versus REST. There's some good good practice here. Like the good part on the extension source, that's bidirectional. It can send you event from on-premises to Vantiq Cloud. You can connect it. You can grab a configuration. You can reconfigure it as many times as you want. But sometimes you may need, for example, to send let's say 1,000 different connections. So in that scenario, it is much better if you configure something component to post REST information back to Vantiq. This way you don't have to create 1,000 sources and configure 1,000 sources. Vantiq Micro Edition. This was the one that I was gonna talk about. So this was actually designed to allow Vantiq integration from very small footprint devices, like the components that runs in 16 or 32-bit devices. So there's a C library CSDK that allows you to create an application, and it basically uses a Vantiq to authenticate, a Vantiq token to authenticate back to Vantiq and sends information using OpenSSL. So you have all these 8 interfaces, so authentication, connect, you can select a configuration, you can insert something into a database, you can execute procedures, you can update, aggregate information, you can delete a type or a specific record, or you can publish it to a topic. So this was a summary of how we do integration with the external systems. So now this is a very quick topic, the CLI. CLI is the command line interface. Sometimes you want to do some automation with Vantiq. Sometimes you may want to run. You need CLI to do how do you call it, the extension source integration. You probably need CLI to export or import something in your system if you want to back up your projects, but without using the interface or without connecting Vantiq to a versioning control system. You will need to use the CLI. So there are some comments in the CLI. I don't need to go over it very extensively. The documentation in Vantiq is pretty useful, pretty complete. So whenever you want to have some more details and you want to use it, you can come here, reference, core platform. Oh, sorry. Where's CLI? I thought it was in core platform. Operations and management, CLI. So here are the components that you can work with. Here are the parameters or commands that you can run. And to download it, you can just come here, developer resources. You download the command line interface. I showed this before, not today, but I showed this before. The SDKs are available straight from Vantiq. Here, the command line interfaces, you just click here, download it. In my case, it's already been downloaded several times. There's a library here. Sorry, not the library, but Bean. I recently exported a oh my god, sorry. That's what okay, no, that's not it. Anyway, let me see if I can, not it. Anyway, let me just delete these. So this was something that I exported. Export, where is it? No, move to trash, sorry. So in here in Vantiq, you can execute it from the command line. This is something else, new window. So cd downloads bin Vantiq -134/bin clear. So here you can see this one. So let me get, I'm gonna grab a token from this namespace, access tokens, gonna copy again the demo token, and in here I can call it Vantiq -t from token. I'm gonna put the URL, so -b for base, https://internal.vantiq.com. Export, I'm gonna put data. So it will export everything from my project, everything from my namespace, including all projects, not specified to one project. So I'm exporting the data. So if I look now at my Finder here, Explorer here, I can see the data that they have exported. So in data, there was the demo control, the equipo. So these are all JSON's files. So if I come to, let me just go back here. So in images, there was nothing there. So in here, if I export, now if I export the metadata, it will export my, you see, types, configurations, deployment configurations, etc., etc. And just to show you, when inside types, there are some JSONs as well. So equipo JSON, this is the configuration of the JSON type, not the data inside. If I go to data and I see the equipo JSON, now this is the data that was inside my type. So that's how Vantiq separates these two guys here. And I could do the same thing with the import command. I can import all the projects into a namespace. So let me give you an example. Let's go to the demo to delete. So here again, let me grab a token. So access token. Let me create a new one because I don't know. This one is still valid. Okay, access token. So now I'm gonna import. As you can see, there's only 5 projects. I have to change the token. This is okay. So now I'm importing the metadata. So the metadata, there was an error. Let me see. Let me create a new token here. Token to anyone. Okay. And let me see what happened there. Oops, here. Key collection, Ars Technician down to cleaning index. Import metadata. Oops, I forgot again to change the token. Vantiq minus T token minus B journal vantiq.com minus no, import metadata. No, it's complaining about something. So I'm gonna create. You guys got the idea, but let me. I just don't wanna demo to delete to save. Okay. Advanced tokens. Okay. Copy. No. Here. Vantiq minus T token minus B journal. Might be the catalog configuration because it was already connected to the catalog, and we export also the catalog connection. I think that was the issue. So now there's nothing here. So when I finish importing the metadata, that's okay. It imported 92 items. I just refresh my browser. So in my projects, they're all there. So if I want also, I can also import from the UI. So here, let me just minimize this. So I could bring my directory. It will select everything. I might want not to import all. Let's say I want to import only the data. So this case, it wants just to import some of the components. So I'm gonna keep for just a keep. So it's importing just my equipo. I import it, boom, there it is. So you can choose how to import it. If you wanna automate that process, you can use the CLI to do it. Um, so that was pretty much it for CLI. Let's talk. I think it's gonna be federation. Yeah, federation. So federation is amazingly important. It's a very important topic. I would say a little bit advanced right now, but it's really, really, really important because that is another key component of Vantiq, the ability to execute code remotely and yeah, execute and store data remotely and then bring it all to one single point. So Vantiq allows you to have the development being done straightly in a cloud, for example, and then you can deploy it in let's say in the same cloud, running AWS or Azure on premises, or you can deploy it on an edge device. So these different types of components. So if being a public cloud or a regional data center or the edge will allow you to put different pieces of the application to run in different parts of your system so that you can have everything running where they have to run. You don't have to put all the components, all the systems everywhere. It will run wherever you see fit. Yeah, so this is what I just said. So the best part is that you don't have to worry about it when you're designing your application, when you're developing your application. Ventic takes care of it. So if you develop a type and you deploy and you have this type running or deployed everywhere, that type will be available to Ventic everywhere. And you can execute a command to insert something in a type or read something from a type from again anywhere. And you will know, Ventic will know that all these nodes, and for Vantiq nodes is a connection between two namespaces. All these nodes, which one has the type, and will bring back your information. Um, this is just some information. So we have two types of installations. So we have the, let's say the full-blown Vantiq installation running on a data center with a few servers, and you have the edge. On the edge, you basically have Vantiq running with the MongoDB database. You don't have high availability. You don't have uh, monitoring. You don't have the fault tolerance. In the cloud, you have that. So you can monitor the processing. You can monitor the memory. You can monitor which cluster is running. You can load balance the information. Uh, and you have fault tolerance. If one of the nodes fail, if one of the servers fail, the other one would pick up. On local data centers, yeah. Sorry, let me just continue something here. So in the data center installation, you have the high availability and high scalability of Vantiq running the clustering. So you need at least 3 nodes for the Vantiq servers. You have Mongo running in cluster mode for high availability as well. You have Grafana running to monitor the system, and you have Keycloak running to do the authentication. If you have When you have Vantiq running on the cloud, you have let me just see if I can show you. You've probably seen this in your environment or whenever you logged in into Vantiq. So new incognito window, sorry. Internal. So when you're connecting to a key cloud, sorry, to a cloud instance of Vantiq that is managed by Vantiq, we have the connections here, for example, with Microsoft, Google, or GitHub. In the case that you're running in dev.vantiq.com, you also have LinkedIn, and you have the username and password. If you're using the dev.vantiq.co.jp, that's our cloud running in Japan, we only have the username and password. But if you want to have, if you have this running in your local data center, because you're running a local instance of Keycloak, you can put any type of connection you want. So you can connect it to Active Directory instance. You can put it connected to your Google directory service. You can put it connected to an open LDAP system. So you can connect it to anything that you need, even to Apple authentication too. So Vantiq Edge is it is designed to run close to where the processing is happening. So sorry, where the events generation is happening, so that the processing can have low latency. So we have the minimum specs for it to run is 64-bit OS. We require Java 8 to be run, and because MongoDB requires 64-bit to run, we also have the 64-bit requirement for us. And the minimum is 1 gig memory. More is better. And nowadays I'm playing here with the Raspberry Pi device. It has 4 gigs of RAM, 4 processors, and it runs really smoothly. So it's really convenient to have these small devices to run Vantiq. But you could have, in some customers, we had an Edge instance running with 64 processors and I think 128 gigs of RAM. But it's not a small device, but it's running close to where the events are being generated. So they just wanted to test the throughput in a small latency situation. Vantiq Edge runs in a Docker container. So you have Docker running. That was, let me just show you my, I don't know if I close the window, just minimize it. So that's my instance running there. I was just finishing setting up a new one. So let's get to the concepts now. So when you have federation running, federation, Vantiq federation concept, we're talking here about namespaces. We will create nodes, and for that we will need tokens. The tokens you've seen many times, the namespace you've seen many times, but the nodes might be the concept, the new concept for you. So the namespaces I talked right in the beginning, they support multi-tenancy and are the boundaries for protection. The nodes, they represent a one-way connection between two namespaces. So whenever you want to connect from one namespace to another, you generate a token and you put that there, you put that in the node configuration. So I'm gonna do this right now. So this demoted lead has already some stuff in it. It's probably gonna break if I, so let me create a new one. So it's gonna be new demo deploy delete. Save. So we're going to this deploy. I'm gonna open a new tab here. Okay. So here in the demo to deploy, I'm gonna generate a token, access token. New token 21. Okay, copy. And from my Adrig manufacturer, yes, I'm gonna create a node. So new, this is gonna be my deploy demo. My URL is in internal.vantiq.com. I don't need to have a full URL if I have a Vantiq installed. Maybe can be any namespace. I'm gonna use a access token. I'm gonna publish an access token, and I can put specify some properties here. I can put that the let's say it's a demo. So demo equals true, and I can put some more options here if I want to. Save. So my deploy demo it's here. I can test my node connection. So successfully connected. Okay. Later on, if I want, I can add more properties, and I can put even some specific client options here. But I don't need so any. So I talked about the node properties. I talked about the tokens. We can have that running. For now, we're just talking about the processing. So this is how you create a token. Sorry, that was how you create a node. And when I get to deployment, I might let's run this for you so you can see. So yeah, it's gonna take a little longer. I'm afraid about the time. So let's keep on going here. So whenever you're running something in Vantiq, so let's say you have a node node space like mine. I have a rig manufacture ES or EN, and in there I can run a select from sensor, and I have process by. In that case, my demo equals my demo is the property, and the value is true. So it will see all my nodes that has the property called demo and has the value to set to true, and it will send that select from sensor to these nodes, and in that node it will process and get that information. Let me. I'm a bit afraid that I might break the deployment demo later, but let me see if I can show you quickly this quickly. So I'm gonna quickly create a type. Let's call it demo. Let's call it something else. No, it cannot be numbers. So that I don't. Let's see if it doesn't break the deployment demo later. So the properties, I'm just gonna put one property called demo. It's gonna be a string. Okay. No need for indexes. I'm gonna add a record. 1, 2. Okay. So I'm gonna copy the name of the type, and from this namespace, I'm gonna run a procedure. I call it federation. So select everything from blah 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 processed by. So the property on my node. Oh no, it's not this one. It's in here, the node. It's demo true. Okay. Demo true. Let me see. Execute. Let me see again. Oops. process by time. This is a property. No time. Let's see if I forgot. Maybe it has to be a string. Save, execute. Huh. Node.demo. Why? Let's see. Hmm. Should have worked. Node. Save. Yeah, there's something missing here. Just gonna try a little later. I'll get back there. But this is the principle. I'll get back to it in a minute. So whenever I call this procedure, it will run remotely and then get the responses asynchronously back to me. So locally, that's what I was doing. I just have to have the URL. It will connect to my other namespaces and get it back. Remotely, we may have using an IP or again a URL as well. We now have a way to create a two-way connection. It's instead of HTTPS, we call it VQS, a Vantiq type of connection. So even if the IP address changes, the edge sends back the new information back to Vantiq. This is another example, pretty interesting. So here I have a procedure, and I run this procedure in my central node. So this command gets sent to my regional nodes, and they then itself run the procedure. So this procedure has another call inside called select from sensor, process by, and then the property of the node. Then it gets sent to whatever node it has connected, and then sends back the information back to the original namespace. The good part is that the node really doesn't change. So you can use this property to abstract the physical topology. You don't need to know about the physical topology, and it can change at any time. You can run procedures, you can send messages, you can insert data into types, you can create new types, you can do it all from the local code. So for example, you can locally, you can put like a execute return NS details true as factory, process by, and then the name of the properties. You can put some other variables. So for example, if process by our properties location equals factory or equals factory 2, and then it returns the names that you have. You may have like the timing, so context to status within 1 minute, or on remote error you will do like if within a minute, then you do this. If there's an error, then you log the error. You may publish the messages on remote nodes. You can publish the messages on remote sources. So this is really useful when you start to think on distributed and federated environment. Again, I know this is really, really important and interesting. I know it might be really too much for now in the beginning, but it's important for you guys to know that this exists and it can be done. So whenever you want to do it later, you can come back here and do it. select data from the nodes. So this is one of the properties. You can, as I said, you can create types. You can insert information into types, select, drop, like delete a type. You can and you can create rules. So even if you have an architecture that today doesn't have the property, you can, sorry, doesn't have the type, you can go on ahead and create a type or check if the type exists. If it doesn't exist, then you create it, and then you insert the information in the type. Let me see if that's what I missed. Let me go back here. Process by ours. Let me just copy here. No, not this one. Copy. Why doesn't that don't let me copy? Let me see. Type equals edge. Save, run, execute. Got it. So that was the three things that I created: the demo, this one, and this one. And you can see the namespace is demo deploy delete. So I could let me do the demo now. Demo and equals true. Save, run, execute. Yeah, same thing. So if I had other namespaces, that's how I would do. So yeah, so this is the important part for you to know, that it is possible to run, to create, to do selects in different parts of the distributed architecture of Vantiq. You don't need to have everything running from a single node and from a single place. Now the deployment. And this is the last part. The other one is a little bit of administrative, but this is still regarding to development. It's really important so that you guys understand how to develop and deploy with Vantiq. So Vantiq brings a graphical tool for you to visualize and manage deployment. So everything that we do in Vantiq is actually based on the project. We used to create several projects inside the same namespace. Now the recommendation is to have one namespace, one project, and one developer. So if you have multiple developers working on the same project, it might become chaotic. So our recommendation is that it's one namespace, one project, one developer. So maybe distribute the work between the developers, because Vantiq is really performatic. So sorry, really a productive platform. So you don't have to have 10 developers working at the same thing. You can have 10 developers working in 10 different parts of the work. So you may have like people working on the front end, people working at the back end, people working at mobile applications, different components. There are two high-level concepts: environments and deployments. So the environments, let me just give you an example here. So the environments is just like what you would have in a common scenario. So I will do the demo deploy the delete as my production deployment, the production environment. And I'm gonna do, let me create a new namespace. Otherwise it's gonna become kind of complicated. Demo deploy delete 2. Save. Now open a new instance. Don't do this at home. This is really not recommended. Deploy to, and I'm gonna get a token. again, another token 21. Okay, copy. And now, first thing we have to do is create a node. So the deploy demo is already one. I'm gonna call it deploy demo 2. The URI is https internal vantiq.com token. Paste the token. Let's put a property, I don't know, demo false. And let's put the node type edge. Save. So now we have the two nodes here. So now we are going to create the environment. So let me just delete these two that I have. Yes. I'll create the first one. It's going to be called test. And I'm gonna put, you could put based on properties. So yeah, let's do it based on properties. So here's gonna be demo, and it's gonna be true. So if it's true, it's gonna be the test environment. So we can see that one showed up here. So save. And automatically when you add new nodes, if they adhere to that rule, it will show up on that in there. So a new environment is going to be production prod. Okay. And my other constraint will be our property demo false. So now we have another one that's going to be deploy demo 2. So save. So now we have the nodes, we have the environments. So we just need to create the deployment. So the first thing that we need to do, let me just close here, okay, is on deploy, create a deployment. So I'm gonna say, let me delete this, yes, new deployment. So let's say deploy equip app. I'm gonna deploy using the project equip app. It could use any other project. And the environment, this is gonna be test. So let's, the name of the deployment will be test deploy equip app. Okay. So everything here is like a property cloud. So it's kind of hard to see because there's a lot of components there. But we're deploying to environment test. So there's my deploy demo and my default environment here. So if I want to deploy everything, where's the other guy? Here it is. Sorry, barely could see it. So if depending on the components that I want to bring here, I could bring I never know how to do that using a Mac. Sorry. It says that I have to drag and drop using the Alt key, but I'm using a Mac, so I don't have an Alt key. Oh, there it comes. There you go. It's the option button. I always forget. So you could have just one component there, or if you right click, sorry, let me remove from this partition. Right click here, add resource to the partition. So you can select each one of the resources that you want to add, or just everything, and poof, there you go. So there's a lot of stuff in there. It's kind of hard to see. So in the environment, you can see both nodes, the default itself and the other one, and you could specify some settings. So let's say that you want to add a new setting, like the catalog, or you can add the tasks and task suites. I think you can include here the documents. Yeah, so let's say you want to include all the pictures that you have inside. So you can put it here. And when you're finished, you just hit save. and deploy. And there was an error there. There was some issue. Let's try later in the other one. So now you want to do the production. So again, let's test with the production. Prod, equipo app, now it's production. Okay. Let me it's in here. Okay. Oh, cancel. Let me put move all resources. So this time, move all resources. No, this one. Okay, again, kind of crazy to see that. Environment. Why does it? Should be. There should be somewhere there. Never mind. It's just the idea was to make it work. New. Let me create a new partition. It should be demo false. No. Yeah, demo deployment doors too. I don't know why it's here. Keepo. Anyway. Yeah, it gets really hard to see. Add resources to partition. Let's select. Instead of selecting everything, I'm just gonna select a few of them so we can see something. Okay. No need to add a setting. Save. Deploy. It's generated. It's giving me an error. There's probably something wrong with this namespace, but you got the idea. So here, after you create that, shouldn't look that ugly as mine did. And when you click on deploy, you will see all the nodes that you try to deploy and then deploy. There's if you really need, there's also ability to create some manual deployments, but in this case, the UI is probably all you need. So now the administration is the last part. Now there's best practice too, but this is a little bit for you to understand. I'm not gonna go extensively into this. I just want you to know a bit how it works. So you have the users and you have a namespace. The relationship between these users and the namespaces are the user. It will always have a home namespace. So that's where the user is actually created. If you delete this namespace, it will delete the user, and thereof all the namespaces that this user can access will not be accessible because this user will not exist anymore. Authorized namespace. This is where, let me just show you a little bit. This is where you can authorize users to connect. So in my namespace, let me switch to another one. In ES, let me show you this. So I am homed in Vantiq sandbox. That's my home organization or home namespace. My home namespace, I don't do anything. That's how it is. In your home namespace, you don't develop, you just exist. And then you create a new namespace, and then you start building something. In my, I was gonna show you the ES. So in my other namespace, in this one, I can go to administer namespace, grab the grab this namespace, manufact, yes, and I can see the authorizations. So authorized users are the users that are authorized to get in this namespace and do something. So when you're creating your namespace and you want to let users use it, you're gonna authorize a user as a user. When you want to invite a developer, you authorize as a developer. If you go ahead, let me grab another namespace. Okay. If you go to a root namespace, just a second. So let's go to this root namespace. If you come to this root namespace and you invite somebody, in this case here, root, and you invite them, as you can see, there are many more authorized users. These are all users. Let me just show you. These are all users. But if you authorize somebody as an organization administrator, he will not be a developer. Although he can do development, he's not a developer. He can do some things, but not other things. That's what this application, that presentation I want to tell you about. So this is the authorized namespace where you can be authorized to do something. You can be a developer, you can be a user, or you can be an administrator. You can even build like custom profiles. Uh, like in this case here, there's a user or user system, and you can create some others. And it's all going to be invited by email to you. If you create a new profile, you can set up the specific permissions and so forth. The default namespace is the namespace wherever you're gonna show up after you log in. Usually the last one that you connected. Um, there are three types of namespaces, although you don't see it anywhere. That's something also important. So the organization namespace is the first namespace where you, for example, this root is an organization namespace. Projectiva root, it's another organization namespace. B drive, bits, etc., etc., etc. They're all organization roots. We create these roots based on from the system namespace. So the system administrator can create new organizations. I don't have any access here, so in this case, I won't be able to show you. But once you have the organization namespace, you can create other developer namespaces or application namespaces. So you don't see a developer or a application namespace, but it's based on how you're gonna invite somebody else. So if you invite somebody to become, if you create a new namespace with the namespace admin authorization level, you're creating an application namespace. If you put as a developer, you have a development namespace. This will have an impact in the way that you can test, run uh, the test suites or test components, and how you can also deploy components from one namespace to the other. Okay, so have that in mind, that makes a difference. I was talking about administrator, developer, user, and custom. So this is all available at the Vantiq website or at the training. This is a step-by-step on how to create. Groups allow you to restrict access to individual records in a type. So you can enable the groups in a type, and you can then make the group, assign users to a group, and then you have to put the ars properties where you're gonna restrict the user. One thing interesting is that if you have this in the beginning happens a lot. So it's interesting because if you are a developer, you it's like you're an administrator in the namespace, so you can basically do anything. And then you create a client. You do something with the client in the namespace, and all of a sudden, then and you invite somebody else as a user. The user tries to run the same thing. It gets an access denied or the application breaks. Why? Because the properties of a type. Let me show you a type. Keepo. The administrator level allows him to read and write. The user level only allows him to read from a type. So if you have a client where you are writing back to a type, whenever a user runs it, it's probably going to break. So a way for you to go around it is to publish that information into a topic, and then inside Vantiq, you have a rule listening to that topic and doing that insert. Because the rule will, in this case here, there's an example. The rule will always run in the context of the creator, of the developer that created this rule. So if I'm a developer here, I can run this rule, and whoever publishes something here will make that object run in my context. So this is a way for you to um, kind of escalate the permission. Okay. Sometimes it's a little bit different. Sometimes, let me just show here, developer, public. So sometimes you may need a resource to be public. So you may mark a client page to be accessible by somebody not authenticated. In that case, not even publishing to a topic works. So you need to have a public rule, sorry, a public procedure to be able to query resources inside Vent. So there's a way here for you to create these public procedures with the parameters. For example, uh, ours public equals true. So this will make this procedure to be accessible without authentication and still do some work for you. So the client, the Vantic documentation is really complete, full of samples. And whenever you need also any type of that you help, any question that you have, we're always here for you to help you. The last thing, I promise it's going to be really quick, is just a couple examples on types. There's some these sessions. They're also available in English, and later on they're going to be available in Korean also in the community portal. But now, one thing that I want to leave you with. So there's some ways that you can work better with Vantic. So some of them are minimizing the message frequency or the message size. So an example here is, for example, if you have a sensor reading arriving at a local node on the edge at 100 readings per second, instead of sending all these 100 readings per second to the server or to the cloud, you can make a rule to analyze the readings, and only if the rate of change is greater than 5 volts per second, or if you detect a specific condition, then you send that information back to the source, back to the cloud. So this is an example. Another example how you can minimize the traffic is that you do an average of the last 100 readings per second, and you send just one reading per second to the server with the mean reading, the average reading. Another part that's really important, and that I kind of see this, and I'll say almost like a mistake, is that people is used to create database models. Developers are used to create access in a database store, and because of that, they usually create types like this one. Let me grab the, yeah. So developers usually create like this, like they have a type called, or a table called book. Then you have title, ISBN, author, sales. And then you have another type called author, and you have name and publisher. And then you keep querying one, and then you keep querying another to get the whole view of the information. In Vantiq, you can have one table, one type with all the information that you need. So instead of doing multiple queries, like doing a cascade of queries, you could have just one big table with all the information provided for you, so that whenever you're querying it, you just have to do it once. So this will make query much more efficient than having multiple queries. And proper index is always important. So no, it's not because you have like richer types that you don't need to properly index your types. So take a look at how you're querying your data. Try not to query all the time. Try to make like interesting ways to do it. So one way that I kind of show you here. So for example, I have this rule that summarizes my daily data. So what I do, for example, let's say I'm saving all the information from a sensor every second, not every second, but every minute. And then every day I do a daily summarization. So I grab every information from my type test. I put that information on the count here. I put the information on when, and I create a new item. I could put some more information if I had more data there, and I delete everything from the type test, so that daily I have all the last 24 hours of data. Maybe not in this case, not 24 hours, but from midnight, from the last midnight to the current midnight, I'll have minute data. But from the previous days, I have a summary. So when I want to present that in a dashboard, if I want to present a trend, I can read it from the daily summary. Instead of having 1 million records, I only have like the daily summary. That in my case, exactly what I need. I don't need to have like 1 million points of minute by minute to draw a graphic of the last day average. So these are some ideas on how you can protect your environment. Source performance. So if your source is already not performing well, it's not using Vantiq doesn't make it performing better. So the closest to the source, the better. You may try different messaging channels. So if MQTT is not working so well, you can try AMQP, or if the opposite, if you're pushing data directly into Vantiq through a REST, then you may, I don't know, may try to use MQTT, or you may try to use a socket and then push the data into Vantiq. And these are some of the guidelines. It's very, let's say, advanced concept for right now. So with this, 4 o'clock, I'm gonna stop my sharing. I'm gonna let Shangan do a summary of what I said.
It's long story to summarize. 오늘은 말씀드린 것처럼 이제 어제까지는 이제 개발과 관련해서 쭉 설명을 드린 거고, 오늘은 이제 개발 관련해서 하다가 이제 트러블 슈팅 해야 될 때 사용해야 되는 이제 로그나 트레이스나 뭐 오토사이라고 하는데, 저희 쪽에 이제 어쨌든 디버깅 할 수 있는 여러 가지 방법들을 좀 설명을 좀 드렸고요. 그 다음에는 이제 사실 이제 어드민 관점에서의 기능들을 좀 말씀드렸잖아요. 거기서 이제 제가 이제 너무 길게 해서 기억나는 것들은, 사실은 이제 관리 관점에서 바라보면 주로 이제 사람하고 자원을 같은 데 두지 말라는 얘기 많이 하거든요. 아까도 보면은 이제 루트에다가 이제 사람들 넣어놓고 이제 개발할 수 있는 개발 환경을 위한 네임스페이스를 별도로 가져가서 거기다가 거기서 이제 개발해라 뭐 그런 얘기도 했었고, 그다음에 그 외부 시스템하고의 통합 관련해서도 얘기할 때 이제 저도 이제 들은 얘기긴 하지만 실제 경험은 안 해봤지만 그 대용량 데이터 처리가 필요한 경우는 소켓 통신하는 식으로 만들려고 하더라고요. 그게 어쨌든 퍼포먼스 측면에서 좋으니까 그런 식으로 하고, 그다음에 그 통신하는 포트는 이제 벤틱 같은 경우에는 기본적으로 통신할 때 주로 443을 쓰거든요. 그래서 보안 관점에서도 뭐 특히 시스템 연동하거나 할 때 크게 문제가 될 것 같지는 않고요. 그다음에 나머지 이제 배포 관련해서 하는 것도 보면은 그 벤틱을 설명하는 자료에도 보면 그 엣지 네이티브 뭐 그런 얘기도 나오고, 그다음에 뭐 분산, 그러니까 디스트리뷰티드 어플리케이션 어웨어나 뭐 하여튼 분산 어플리케이션 환경에 잘 적응되어 있다는 얘기하는데, 아까도 이제 그 배포나 그런 쪽에 약간 할 때 보니까 뭐 그 어플리케이션을 만든 다음에 배치하는 게 뭐 분산 환경이라고 해서 특별한 게 아니라 그냥 거기다가 갖다 놓으면 사실은 유연하게 배치가 되고 하는 걸 보셨잖아요. 그래서 그런 관점에서 이제 그런 걸 좀 이해하시면 될 것 같고요. 그 오늘까지 해서 이제 그 벤틱 2시간짜리 5일간 진행했던 교육은 마치도록 하고요. 그 말씀드린 것처럼 그 궁금한 점 있으면 저한테 따로 메일 좀 주시고, 그다음에 그 사실 계속 말씀드렸지만 실습해 보는 게 되게 중요하거든요. 실습을 해봐야지 이제 설명드렸던 것들이 아 요런 식으로 돌아가는구나라는 걸 쉽게 느낄 수가 있기 때문에, 그 제가 드렸던 그 공유해 드렸던 랩 그거 꼭 한번 해 보시고, 그다음에 어쨌든 이게 영어 교육이라서 사실 편치는 않잖아요. 제가 간혹 중간에 설명 조금씩 뭐 추가 구현하긴 했지만 사실 저도 이제 뭐 벤트에 완벽하게 잘하는 사람은 아니라서, 그 저희가 메일에도 말씀드렸지만 그 본사에 이제 그 정규 커리큘럼 콘텐츠에 한글 자막을 넣은 것을 지금 준비를 하고 있거든요. 그게 이제 이번 주면 나오고, 제가 그러면 다음 주 정도에 이제 그거를 전체 한글 자막을 좀 검수를 해가지고서 문제가 없다고 이제 피드백을 주고 나면 아마 그게 이제 그 유튜브에 올라가서 그 노출이 될 거예요. 그러면 사실은 저희 이제 그 교육 콘텐츠는 저희 쪽에 커뮤니티에도 이제 가입을 해가지고 들어와야지 볼 수 있는데, 제가 그냥 그 유튜브 링크만 알려드리면 사실 가입 안 해도 들어와서 그 교육 콘텐츠 좀 보실 수 있으니까, 아마 벤틱 그 실습해 보시고 그럼 그거 듣고 하시면 아마 훨씬 더 쉽게 이해하실 수가 있을 것 같고요. 어쨌든 그 5일 동안 교육 참석하시면서 고생하셨고, 또 이게 벤틱을 통해서 좀 더 많은 경험을 해보시면 좋겠습니다. 그럼 이제 그동안 수고하셨고요. 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.